Welcome back to another video. This one is going to be understanding the truth on affirmations and really understanding more about how to make visualization a more powerful process in our life. Now, I remember that when I first learned about the whole idea of the law of attraction, or, like the movie The Secret, I remember that one thing that I started to understand and look into was the idea of affirmations. And I did affirmations for years. And I think that for some people, they can work, but let me explain that I think that they can be used in a much more powerful way by having these little hacks I'm going to be showing you. Now, first off, let's say that what are affirmations even really good for, or even the idea of visualization? Well, understanding that most of what we experience in our life is ran from our subconscious mind, at least that's what we learn a lot of, is understanding that a lot of the micro habits that we have, a lot of the ways that we identify ourselves to be, are constantly being perpetuated over and over again, and it happens so much that eventually it becomes something that is on autopilot. It's something we don't really know we're doing it, when it's just it just keeps running itself. Now, when I say this, understand that repetition really is one of the ways that we get through to the subconscious mind. And maybe I'll show you a diagram here of understanding I know the classic examples like the iceberg, but most of what we see, underneath that, there's a whole foundation, and that foundation is normally a product of the idea of maybe the experiences that we went through when we were young, the beliefs that we've developed about who we think that we are, and a lot of different ways that end up becoming put on autopilot to where we're not necessarily consciously aware of them, and because of that, it continues to perpetuate the same experiences over and over again because it affects the way that we identify ourselves to be. Now, with that being said, the reason I explain all that is because really, the more that we tap into our subconscious mind, or really just make the unconscious conscious, because once we become aware of a habit, it's no longer a habit. It then is a choice if it's continued to be perpetuated, and I have a video on this idea as well. But it's understanding that when we bring that into the awareness, that's when we begin to take our power back. So with that being said, let's understand a little bit more about how we can make affirmations so much more powerful. Now, for me, this is something that I did when it was even involving looking at myself in the mirror and saying things about myself to make me feel a certain way, to up my state, whether that be to feel more confident. This is mainly maybe 7 or 8 years ago that I was doing things like this, looking at myself in the mirror. And I find that when doing affirmations, with the hacks I'm going to be giving you, if you do it with looking in the mirror and deep into your eyes, it has such a powerful effect. And I don't know if that has something linked, maybe it links into the brain a little bit more, or just we're able to connect to the deeper part of who we are, but it really seems to make a difference. Now, with that being said, the biggest missing key to affirmations and why they don't work for people is because I think people do it in such a logical way. They're sitting there and they're like, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. There is no emotion introduced into the idea of the affirmation, and because of that, it doesn't actually start to gain momentum. Now, let's understand something about emotion. Now, emotion, while we have, the traditional emotion is energy in motion, emotion really is a very powerful force. And when we begin to act in emotion, what we begin to do is we begin to, express emotion. We quicken the manifestation time of what we want to manifest. Now, I think the reason emotion is such a powerful tool when using affirmations is because it really allows us to get out of the logical thinking mind of us repetitively saying the same thing over and over again, and it allows us to transcend logic and then get into a feeling, a present place. And when we do that, there's much more momentum in the direction of whatever we want to go. Now, it's also understanding that our subconscious mind a lot of times speaks in the language language of emotion. Like if you're trying to find a subconscious belief about yourself, what you can do is look at what you would have to believe to be true in order to feel a certain way that you're feeling, because the emotions that we have are a lot of times linked into those beliefs about who we think we are, and the real existence of emotion comes from what we define to be true about ourselves and what we believe to be true. So this is about understanding that we take our power back when we bring the unconscious into the conscious. We become aware of the things that we weren't aware of, but then we also introduce the idea of emotion into what we're doing. So for example, if you're standing in front of a mirror and you want to love yourself more, instead of looking into your eyes and going, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, imagine if you're able to introduce the idea of passion. Now, this is when it gets more into the idea of an incantation. Now, an incantation is when we use more of our body, we use our tonality, we use more enthusiasm, and that begins to envelop more emotion in our body so that we feel a little bit different. Now, imagine if instead of going, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, you went, I love myself. I appreciate who I am. I love that I'm able to grow. I love who I am. I love how I feel in my body. I love being able to nourish myself in the best ways. You see how those things feel different than if I were to go, I love myself, I'm nourishing myself, I eat lots of nutrient-rich foods because I love my body. No, it's more about the idea of putting passion into it, putting emotion into it, to where maybe even you use your body kind of like I'm doing right now. I'm using it as emphasis, and see what this then does is it allows us to involve our body in the process, and we begin to transcend the idea of the logic so that it becomes something that's much more visceral, something that's much more present into the moment, rather than some ideology that's kind of floating around. It becomes something that we're actually experiencing. Now, when I get into the idea of visualization, a lot of times when people visualize, they think that the visualization they're doing needs to come to pass in a certain way. So maybe they're visualizing themselves at a certain job and they keep doing it because they want to manifest it. But really what it's about understanding is that we must manifest the state of that in the present moment now. So what we begin to do is visualize it in our mind and then feel the emotions as if what we want to experience is already here in the present moment. In the same way, affirmations. When we are saying something with passion, imagine and feel it in the present moment now. And look at yourself in the eyes and do that, and you'll find that it has so much more of a powerful effect. So remember that visualization really isn't so much about needing the manifestation to come into our own way that we're identifying it to be. And sometimes that can be a limitation. Maybe the best way that our imagination can visualize something isn't even the full capacity of what we could experience. So that's why letting go of the outcome is so important, because it may even happen better than we previously thought that it was. Now, with that being said, imagine that you're able to feel through the visualization a certain way and create the state in the present moment now. Now, this is where I'm going to take the video a little bit deeper. Now, anything that we want to manifest in our life is only because we believe we will feel better in the having of it. Let me say that again. The only reason that we want to manifest anything in our life is because we believe we will feel better in the having of it. Now, what this means is that when we become aware of that, we can realize that through imagination, through visualization, we can actually feel these emotions right now in the present moment. The only thing that blocks us from feeling those positive emotions is some part of our head that says that we cannot feel that way until X, when really, in the present moment, we can allow ourselves right now to feel that emotion, to imagine what it could be. And there's lots of science too that proves that what we imagine to be true and what we visualize, it has an effect on our brain and has an effect on our body, to where we actually think that it's happening if we get to a deep level of it. So imagine you can create the same emotions in your body right now. And as you begin to do that, You're gaining momentum to actually bringing those things into our life and to actually bringing it into something that's more visceral, that actually has an effect in our daily lives. And we do this by simply getting more to the feeling of it, transcending the ideologies that we might have, the intellectual ideas of it, and not just saying it as some little hyperbole, like I feel this way, I feel this way, I feel this way. We do it from a point of just choosing to feel good in the present moment right now. We use visualization as a tool. We use it as imagination, but rather than using affirmations, I encourage you to use incantations. Use your body when you're speaking. Use your tonality, your enthusiasm, and as you begin to do that, I promise you the feeling will come around naturally. Then you're going to be breaking through those plateaus in your mind so that it's easier for you to get to the subconscious mind, because feeling has much more an impact than the idea of thinking. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it. Share it if you found it of value. And as always, much love, and I'll see you guys on the next vid. Peace.